following is a GNC podcast production. Welcome to Geek Addicts, a pop culture podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Geek Addicts, the pop culture podcast where we run across the rain with our drying pans. Hopefully, no one's. I lost where I was going with this. Anyways, guys, how's it going? I'm Bill. This is Matt.
How you doing, man?
I've been drinking, so you can already tell this is going off to a great start.
Yeah, I could use a drink right about now. Although I was just telling you before we started recording, I had to put my daughter down to sleep beforehand, and if I had had any drinks before that, there's no way I would have fucking made it to this point. I would have been passed out.
See, right before you texted me about recording tonight, I had just made this like really alcoholic shit like drink, and then I was like, you texted me, I was like, oh, this is gonna go well, and I just kind of like,
hey, whatever.
It's been one of the worst weeks in a while, so it's
agreed.
I mean, this is gonna come out like mid-December, so people aren't gonna. It's a little bit past everything, but yeah, this was a stressful week for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It must be something in the air. Maybe it's like a full moon or something. I don't know. But
yeah, an event happened this week, and yeah, that's all I'm gonna say on it. But yeah, so.
Oh yeah, I wasn't even thinking of that. I had so much of my own shit going on. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah. We're recording this early November, so people who want to fill in the dots, you can fill in the dots.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a week. I finally got around to watching Kaiju number 8 this week.
Nice. What'd you think of that?
I thought it was pretty cool.
Doesn't it end right when you want it to get better? Doesn't it end right when you're like, fuck, I want more?
Yeah, kinda. And I gotta say, I know you probably wouldn't have. I mean, I'm sure just through osmosis, you kind of get it a little bit. But just gonna go ahead and say, whoever the author for this series is, definitely an Attack on Titan fan.
Yeah, we brought that up during the anime swap because it's pretty.
Because there's a lot of shades of Attack on Titan in there.
It's like a more modern setting version.
Yeah. But I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was. It was definitely I liked like the kind of like goofy aspect to it. Like I
it's a lot
kind of like the unsuspecting hero kind of thing.
It's a lot funnier than it should be. And all it's like it's a lot less bleak than Attack on Titan supposedly is. So
I love that he's just horrible at everything, and the only reason he's good at stuff is because he has that power.
Well, he's horrible at everything, but he's actually really smart when it comes to certain things. So he's kind of Kafka's personality is very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like just the fact that he, has the background knowledge of being on the cleanup crew, and he understands how these monsters' bodies work and stuff. Like, I don't know, it's cool.
Oh yeah,
I like it. I don't like the weird, like I don't even know what the hell you call it, the mushroom one, Kaiju number 8, kind of number 9.
Kaiju number 9. Yeah.
I don't like that. That's the one that survived and is like carrying on to the next one. I don't know. I don't like him. I don't like him.
He kidnapped Clark Kent. Like, I mean,
yeah. I'm enjoying it.
I've watched a little anime this week. I wanted to watch another dumb slice of life, so I was just kind of browsing Crunchyroll, and I'm watching this one called like the ice guy and his cool assistant or whatever. It's very cutesy and like slice of life-ish, but for some reason there's like random people with like magical powers and like a random fox girl. So I don't know. I'm like, this isn't what I expected. And I'm like, I'm just kind of going with it. It's only a 12er, so
I gotcha. I've been pretty late this week myself. Well, I didn't go into work on Monday, which because it was my daughter's first day of school. So I had to take the day off and be a part of that, which was nice.
Hmm.
And she's really taken to it. She's really liking it. So I didn't really watch a whole lot that day. Well, I think I watched some Boruto that day because I have been watching Boruto again. I'm
Hmm.
actually further than you now, even because I've been skipping all the anime only stuff. I just got to the part where Kawaki was introduced. So,
Yeah.
um, and let's see. Yeah, I watched Kaiju number 8, I believe, on Tuesday, and then I think Wednesday, for some reason or another, I forgot to prepare a show for work, and I ended up because I just happened to have a couple of Star Trek episodes queued up. I think specifically because I had a couple episodes of Delta Flyers that I wanted to listen to.
Hmm.
Because whenever I listen to like those kinds of review podcasts, I always watch whatever it is like first and then immediately go to the episode. So yeah, I managed to fill up my time with that. And I also recently finished the Golden Age arc of Berserk in the manga, so I've been rewatching the movies. I think I still have the last one to go, but yikes. Then
Yeah.
today, instead of continuing with like a new show, I watched some old Pokemon episodes in preparation because this was kind of like a last minute thing, and it's been a while since I watched Pokemon, so
Yeah.
I wanted to watch some of the old favorites from when I was a kid.
Hmm. Yeah. I've been exhausted this entire week. Like yesterday, I left work at like 3. I usually stay till 4, but I left at 3 yesterday because I was falling asleep at my machine.
Mhm.
Um, then I get home and like me and Alex did a podcast, and then I went to sleep at like 9, and I like slept until like 6, and I was like, shit, I'm late for work.
Mhm.
I was like, fuck, my body is like, you are tired, go to sleep. So
Mhm.
yeah,
I gotcha.
it's been a rough week. Just trying to like daylight savings fucked everything up. Like I'm still off from
Mhm.
that.
Yeah. Oh, and we Monday night we recorded a well, it's already out as at the time of this recording. He wasted no time posting it, but we did another
Yeah,
network special. My first appearance on one.
the first episode of the Superpod Super Show where we talked about absolutely nothing for an hour and a half.
I literally talked about nothing for like the first 40 minutes.
We were talking about sharks for like we were talking about sharks for so long that I'm really confused why he didn't put sharks in the thumbnail. But
I mean that was the part of the show where I actually started getting involved. See, this thing is like um it's hard for me to jump in when like for instance when Thrax going on his like one of his rants about like game developers and all that other stuff. Like I have nothing to add to those conversations, so it's just kind of. And then he kind of turns around and he's like, "Hey Matt, what do you want to talk about?" I'm like I don't know, I don't know how to transition out of that.
yeah, your mic was also really quiet, so I think a lot of people didn't hear you at first.
Oh, it was?
It was at first. It got better as we went on,
Oh,
but
okay.
also we had both Thrak and Knave in the episode, so that led to a lot of chaos.
Hmm. I love that. Was that Nave who like we would talk about something for a minute, then like 5 minutes later he would bring it up, like
Yeah,
not realizing
like
we were just
20
talking
minutes
about
later.
it. That happened
Yeah.
like 5 times. That was like funny.
Oh
It
yeah,
was a
I
good
got
time
an
though. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
it was. So I got an update from our 1 year anniversary special. Alex listened to it because of course she did. Um she sent me some follow-up questions because in her own
Oh
words,
god.
I have questions for Matt, not for Bill because you said I was mean. um so she got really butthurt that we called her out for the questions not being directed towards you. um so she wrote some follow-up questions just for you.
Okay.
Would you like to hear them?
I'm here.
All right. These are
Bring it
Alex
on.
questions, so be prepared. Um,
Oh god.
Number one, what is your favorite brand of baked beans?
I mean you can't really argue with Bushes, you know?
Fair.
Especially yeah, they were the ones with like the little bacon bits in there. Oof.
Country style.
Oh yeah.
think that's the kind. There's so many of them. Like I didn't realize there was this many kinds. We're talking about beans on Geek Addicts. Oh my god. Question 2. Do you know what planet I came from? I being me. I have not been able yet to find out. This is Alex
uh,
asking the question.
eh, eh, I'm confused. What planet you, Bill, are from, or
Yes.
what planet Alex? Okay.
She wants to know what planet I am from.
Um. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a funny answer, but I don't know.
I
Is
mean, she,
there? Are there any planets that I can associate with Inuyasha at all?
Earth. I
I
mean,
mean, I guess that's not funny.
that question's not funny. I mean, she's from planet Claire, as far as I'm concerned. That's a reference to that only some people will get.
Oh wait,
Um,
isn't Ultima from another planet? Or Ultimisia, whatever the fuck her name is in Final Fantasy VIII?
I never really knew what planet they were supposed to be from in that game. I know Seven's like Gaia. Um, yeah,
Oh,
I
speaking of
don't know
Alex,
or whatnot. Oh god. Oh yeah,
they
because she
messaged
was.
it on the year wrap up chat. Her and Slade.
Oh yeah, the anime chat. She was mad that you guys were bullying her earlier and said she was quitting the podcast. Um,
I
she
wasn't
sent.
bullying her. I just can't. I just don't want to do math. That's all.
Yeah, she was like, "I'm quitting the podcast," and I was like, "No, you're not." And she's like, "I'm writing my resignation letter as we speak." I'm like, "I doubt it." And then she's like, "I emailed it to you." I'm like, "Still waiting for it." So
I mean, if I really wanted to, I could sit down and do the math out, but I just don't want to.
I told her this is what would happen, but whatever. All right. Question number 3. What is your favorite form of potato?
Sweet potato.
Okay. I was going
Although,
to say,
I mean, any tomato that any potato that Sam Gamgee is cooking.
see, I was going to just say French fry, but
But I am a big fan of sweet potato.
that works. Okay. I don't know what she was on. Question number 4. Does the shape of food affect how it tastes? Round or square pizza?
I'm gonna go ahead and say yes. I think it does matter. Um, I don't know why. I don't understand the logistics of it, but a square pizza definitely tastes different than a round pizza.
That's fair. Okay. Question number 5. If you could fire Bill, why would you hire me, Alex, as the new co-host of Geek Addicts?
Um, maybe because neither Bill nor I are chaotic enough, so having that chaotic energy would have a balance, I guess.
See, the
I feel
trade-off
like
is though,
Bill and I are both very chill in a lot of ways. So
the problem is though, if you fired me and replaced me with her, then the podcast would just stop happening because no one would edit it.
yeah, no one edited it. No one would edit it. Neither I nor Alex have a StreamYard account, nor can we access the podcast feed. So
Yeah.
it would have to be a whole new podcast at that point.
She didn't think that one through very well. Um, question number 6. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Now, this is a very highly debated question. I'm gonna
This is
say,
one. This is you know what's funny is I'm pretty sure the last time when I don't remember if it was when you were doing the Q&A with Thrak or when you were doing like the Super Pod special, but I was going to ask this question. The follow-up is yes, a hot dog is absolutely a sandwich.
I've seen fights break out over this question, like in the
I
past.
I'm a firm believer of hot dog equals sandwich.
I mean, theoretically, it's a piece of meat between pieces of bread. I don't
I
know
mean,
what more.
I would say a burger is a sandwich too. I mean, it's you got fixins in between slices of bread. Even if it's a bun, it's still bread.
Did you know that there's like an actual like hot dog council?
A what?
There's a hot dog council. Like there's a group of people that actually dictate how you should properly eat a hot dog.
That is okay.
They're
I
meant.
don't know what to think about
It's
that.
it's a real thing. Like apparently you're not supposed to put ketchup on a hot dog. Like
Is it
that's
like the
considered.
hot dog Illuminati?
I, so I want. Out of all places I discovered this, it was in a fucking IndyCar podcast because they made a joke on their show
What is
about.
going on with your fucking IndyCar podcasts? Or whatever,
uh,
but you fucking
well,
all these.
the one I
I swear to
watched.
God, it's always something weird where you like do you like stock car race. Like every time, it's always the stock car race guys.
Well, to be fair, the IndyCar podcast I listened to, they jokingly refer to themselves as a travel podcast because they barely ever talk about IndyCar and they talk more about their traveling stories. But
Fair.
they made a joke about like hot dogs or something, and like the president of the hot dog council actually responded to them, and they brought him on the show, and he actually came on for an episode. It was weird. But yeah, hot dog council's a thing.
You're not supposed to put ketchup on hot dogs, huh?
Yeah, I guess that's sacrilege. I'm still gonna do it, but
Because hot dogs are such a sacred delicacy.
see, my follow up question always this isn't on Alex's list, but my follow up question to the hot dogs a sandwich one is I'm always like, do you eat hot dogs the long way or the wide way? You'd be amazed. Some people eat them the like the wide way, and it's like okay.
To see those people are just psychotic.
Yeah,
I mean, look at it this way: a Subway sandwich is still a sandwich.
Yes,
it's a sub. You know, so if a sub is a sandwich, why wouldn't a hot dog be? Right.
Very true.
And I'd even make it. I know this one's a little bit of a stretch, but I would still argue that a wrap is a sandwich as well.
Yeah.
If bread is involved, like with fixings inside, it's probably a sandwich.
The things people argue about online.
Although, well, I wouldn't call a burrito a sandwich. I feel like this could be a whole podcast discussion on its own.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like that question starts fights because you think about it too much, and then it's like, what the hell?
Maybe we should move
okay.
on.
Yeah. Question number 7. There's 10 of these, by the way, so we're almost done. Question number 7. If you had a pet parrot, what would you teach it to say?
A pet parrot?
Yeah.
That's tough. I don't know. That's a tough one.
So if I had a pet parrot, I always said I would teach it like that, the phrase from Ace Attorney 1, where I think it's like the court number. So there's a point in Ace Attorney 1 where you actually have to interrogate a parrot. And when you're talking to the parrot, it says the phrase SL9, which is the one of the cases. It's like a long cold case from like the pat before the series started, and it's a whole thing during the game. But if I ever had a pet parrot, I'd teach it to say that just because I think it'd be funny.
I'd probably just try to get it to imitate the sound of a fart.
Yeah.
Because I think that would be funny if you're just like hanging out and just like a big like wet fart sound, and everyone's just kind of looking around like, who did it?
Oh, it was the parrot.
It'd be like having like a secret whoopee cushion at all times that no one can ever find.
Yeah. Okay. Question number 8. Would you audition for the co-host position of Water Bottle Facts, the podcast?
I mean, I'd audition. I don't know if I'd take the job.
Yeah. Also, she's forgetting that Schnickerman already said he'd do it. So what the hell?
Yeah.
Alex?
Do you really need 3 hosts for a water bottle podcast?
Knowing Alex, yes.
Plus, I'd always have my wife yelling in the background that Poland Spring is the only correct answer, except maybe like Smart Water.
Kirkland's signature because Costco.
Or whatever's cheapest.
Question number 9. Do you think the banner at the bottom of the screen is cheating and Bill should memorize the podcasts? This is what I say to you, Alex.
Also, I'm the one who gave him the idea for that, so.
Yeah, she probably doesn't. It's nice for some people can't hear as well, and it's nice to have a visual thing.
True.
That's how I see it.
I love that do you play that when you guys see? I never know what banners you play while you guys are recording because you guys rarely post videos.
So whenever Alex is on her water bottle tangents or reading like nutrition facts, I always put that in the bottom. I also play
Nice.
lo-fi beats in the background now, and she's
I
always
know.
like,
Turn
the music off."
It just like breaks her entirely. It's so funny.
Yeah. And really, Alex? Her last question is, what are the last 4 digits of your social security number? Goes, Alex, no. Stop it. You don't have to answer that one.
She's trying real hard to dox me. She didn't have to try that hard. If you really pay attention and actually listen to the podcast, you could probably figure out exactly where I live.
Yeah. And those were Alex's questions for the thing. She wanted to follow up because she was mad that we called her out for not directing her questions previously at both of us.
Fair. Well,
So,
I think she just couldn't resist poking fun at you, which is just a typical sibling thing. I was actually gonna say before all that came up, because I wasn't expecting that at all. I was gonna say that when because I know one of the questions that she had asked on that episode was like, "Oh, like, what is your favorite podcast, or whatever?" You should have just said, "I already answered that question," and then not followed up with, "I don't have a favorite," because then she would have had to go back and listen to the whole thing to find out the answer.
yeah. I lost track of where I am. I think we've waffled on enough though for the start of this episode. We should probably get into our topic.
Sure. I like topics.
Yeah. So we thought it'd be interesting for this episode to do we were kind of in a this week was a mess, so we kind of had to think of an idea last second. I want to do another kind of retrospective, and I thought an interesting one would be actually talking about the Pokemon anime, because the Pokemon anime is it was pretty big back in the day. Like I still remember it was kind of like a lot of people's first anime.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. I honestly, I'm not 100% sure if it was my first. It probably was. Um, Thinking back, it's the earliest one I can remember, but it is entirely possible there was something else first. But yeah, it's. 'Cause I actually think because I know I mentioned it on the last Pokemon episode we did, but my first like video game that was mine was Pokemon Yellow, and I got that for my 5th birthday, so I was already into Pokemon by that point, at least to a degree.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a fun like follow up too, because we spent all that time on the Pokemon manga, and then we did one of the games, so having a third go around at the classic anime, just kind of closes it out pretty nicely.
The anime has always been like an interesting anomaly to me.
Yeah, it's like so weird because it's like, I mean, I'm not gonna say that it's like completely uncommon, especially like back in the day. I definitely feel like it was a little bit more often, but like the kind of like quote unquote monster of the week animes like aren't super common. And that's
Mm.
pretty much what Pokemon was back then. I don't know if that's changed. I feel like it did start to kind of develop more like story arcs later on, like around the point where I dropped off. Um but for a long time it was pretty much like, and like sometimes things would lead into other episodes, but for the most part it was just every episode was its own story kind of thing. And they all followed pretty much the same formula.
Yeah, they did. It's interesting too to me because like when the series like started, um, it was interesting how they like tried to kind of like follow the games to a degree. Like they had a lot of interesting like concepts. Like to me, I always thought it was interesting like how like the first thing like Ash does, he catches a Caterpie, and
Mhm.
then he then catches a Pidgeotto, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like those are like kind of the first two things you'll kind of encounter like when you start your adventure. And
Mhm.
then it did also give us some interesting questions like what would happen if two I'm forgetting the cocoon form of
Metapod.
two metapods like fought each other and it would literally just be a hardened battle.
Yep.
Um
Especially in the anime where like the concept of like PP isn't a thing. So like would it just literally go on forever? Because in the games, eventually one of them would run out of PP and they start using struggle. But although I
yeah.
guess in the game, if you evolve the Caterpie into a Metapod, you still have tackle. So
Yeah. It's
um,
it's such a weird show. Like it was kind of like one of those shows that it was like one of the first ones that Four Kids had done. And like Four Kids was
mhm,
kind of like in that weird spot where like we didn't they were kind of doing random stuff, but like Pokemon kind of put them on the map. And it really
mhm,
kind of introduced us to like a ton of iconic anime voice actors that are like still somewhat present today, like obviously like Veronica Taylor, um, Eric Stewart in particular, a lot of like the
mhm.
main like Four Kids cast. And honestly, for the time, they did a really good job. Another thing too that I really always thought was really impressive of the early anime was the soundtrack was crazy.
Oh yeah, like there was a lot of, like to just from the few episodes I watched earlier today, like I was actually because I think we talked about a little bit about this before, but the soundtrack that we're familiar with isn't the Japanese soundtrack, correct?
Yeah, I'm thinking of like the American soundtrack, like even like over
Yeah,
here, like it was like the background music was like really good, and it like a lot of the times like they'll like neuter the music over here.
yeah.
Um,
They like integrated like the music from the games too a lot, which I noticed. Um,
mm,
like even because I one of the episodes I watched today was the Island of Giant Pokemon because I watched that whole little like shipwreck arc that they did. It was like the first like kind of mini arc in Pokemon. Um, and I don't know if you remember, but the scene it was like right after they like figured out that they were in an amusement park, like towards the end of the episode, and you get that like reveal of like all these people like pretty much going on like a guided tour thing, and like I don't remember. I think they were on a boat, like a little like ferry boat, like doing the guided tour thing. And the music that's playing in the background is the music that plays while you're surfing in the game.
mm,
Like just like little details like that that you wouldn't expect them to put that much effort into.
yeah, no, and especially like the environments too. Like the environments were very much like an interesting like interpretation of like what we would see in the games.
Mhm, for sure. Um, although I will say, like yeah, I know that they did the best they could with the time, and this was just an ongoing thing at that point in time when the Pokemon anime started here, and it went on for a good maybe 5 years or so. But God, some of those line deliveries are really stiff. like, like
Yeah,
I watched the episode where Ash faces against Brock for the first gym battle, and when he's talking to Flint, Brock's dad, and like he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go fight the gym leader and this and that," and Flint like this is like his like verbatim his line delivery. He goes, "Oh, you're gonna fight Brock." Ha 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 ha. like literally like, that is like the stiffest line delivery I've ever heard in my life. Like
mm,
I and this was just a thing with the time with dubbing in general for animes and things like that, but it definitely wasn't where it is today. Like I honestly it's a question that I was pondering it earlier today. Like if obviously not for kids because they're not a thing anymore, but if somebody were to go and redub that like first like Indigo League season, like I wonder what it would look like now.
I wonder if they would use the current Pokemon. Well, actually, I don't even know what the current cast is because they retired Ash recently. Um,
Hmm.
and unfortunately, not all of the original actors are alive anymore. I know Rachel Lillis recently passed away, the voice of Misty and Jesse from the
Yeah, very
anime.
sad. She's very young too.
Yeah, that's why it was kind of shocking.
Hmm. Like even like watching the show, it's like I know that those lines were recorded over 20 years ago. And honestly, maybe even closer to 30 years at this point. But like you could tell, like she was so young when those were recorded,
Hmm.
like younger
Yeah,
than I am now.
yeah. No, they were all pretty young, honestly, at the time. I always remember too, like what do you remember like when Team Rocket first showed up and they were actually sort of intimidating?
Yeah, yeah, that was weird.
And
And
then
like
they
yeah, like James didn't have the same actor at the first, and he also sounded very stiff. It wasn't until he got like super flamboyant that like
when
James really got a personality.
when Eric Stewart took over and it just became what he is nowadays.
Yeah, it just became very goofy, very, like Pegasus voice.
Yeah, Pegasus. I always laugh because it was he voiced James and he voiced Brock, and Brock is his own. Brock is one of the funniest characters in the anime because he is nothing like he is in the games or the
Mhm.
manga or the Pokemon Origins.
Yeah. But yeah, Brock is one of those like weird enigmas where like no matter every time like a different iteration of him comes out, it's always completely different from all the others. Like
Yeah. Brock is also really interesting too because he is a character that probably couldn't exist nowadays.
I don't know. It's hard to say because I mean, there's always by the standards of other shows, he's pretty tame as
Yeah.
far as like the quote unquote perv characters go.
He had a few moments though that were like, okay, this is a little extreme.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, there was the Ghost of Maiden Peak episode where the episode starts with him ruminating on the fact that summer is over and no more girls in bikinis until next year. Like,
yeah. I also think like there's a lot of stuff in the anime too that just doesn't make any sense, like out of context. Like I still always will point over to like Gary Oak driving the fucking car when he's supposedly
mhm.
10.
With his
Um,
entourage of ladies.
yeah, of much older ladies.
Mhm.
Um, also, I always laugh too because the early episode Pikachu was a fucking asshole
Oh yeah.
originally.
Even like after the point where like they were cool and everything was good, like every now and then he would still just zap the shit out of Ash for no reason.
I always remember in the first movie, like when Ash dies, um, Pikachu's first instinct is to shock him multiple times.
Yep. He's like, okay, everybody clear. I'm gonna get him up. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
ridiculous.
yeah. I'm trying to think of some other iconic moments.
Um, well, I mean the the like 3 episodes back to back of him getting Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle are
Oh
like
yeah,
those are like super iconic episodes. Um, which of course they had to be among the ones I watched today. And I gotta say, I had things to say about all 3 of them. First of all, I will start with the Bulbasaur one because that one started first. So the whole concept of that episode was they're traveling, they're on their way to the next city or whatever, and they encounter like a little like pretty much like a Pokemon like like kind of hospital in the middle of the woods where
mm,
there's this random like medicine woman who's taking care of sick wild Pokemon and then re-releasing them and all this other stuff. But she's literally setting death traps for random travelers, like with no concept of like who's actually going to be passing. Like she rigged a rope bridge like over a very very steep fall into like raging river. She rigged that bridge to collapse. And
mm.
Brock fell into it. She just happened to be passing by. It's the only reason he survived. Like
Yeah. That episode's weird.
Yeah. So like it's the thing is like she and they play her up to be like so like sweet and innocent and all this other stuff, but she's like literally setting death traps for random ass passersby so that nobody captures her sick oddish.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck? And then like there was also another scene later in that episode where like they're having a conversation about like the sick Pokemon ever, and Misty says, "Oh, like only a bad trainer would try to capture this sick Pokemon." And my immediate thought was, "Yeah, you're right, Misty. What a good trainer would do is find a healthy one and beat the shit out of it and then capture it. I mean, beat it half to death and then capture it. That's what a good trainer does."
Misty was also really weirdly out of character because like she was like supposed to be the typical anime Tsunare who's like always like angry and like mad at times.
Mhm.
Which is hilarious because in the game she's just another gym leader.
True. Yeah, and the whole way they handle her being a gym leader in the series was weird too. With her like three Valley Girl sisters that are running the gym, but like not really giving a shit and just giving up badges.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we also have to talk about how Ash just gets like gifted all the badges throughout this season for the most part.
Yeah, I was trying to think about the ones he actually earned because actually in the episode where he goes to Cerulean and challenges that gym, he makes a huge stink about wanting to earn his badge, and then doesn't even win his battle. It ends up being a tie because Team Rocket interrupted it. And then they say, "Oh, it's cool. You helped us out, so here's the badge." And he says, "Okay, cool. What happened to earning your badge, bro? Finish your battle."
Yeah, because I know in the Pewter City gym he does the bullshit where he fucking sets the sprinklers off like that. People always will bring that one up.
Mhm.
Um, I know the only gym I can think he actually earns is he definitely gets Lieutenant Surge's badge
Yeah,
legitimately.
Lieutenant Surge. I believe Erica was a similar thing with the Cerulean gym where like they were battling and I think a fire started and he helped with the fire and that's how he got his badge.
That's also the gym where he dresses in drag to get in because they won't let him in because he's a guy.
Yeah.
I always remember that.
um I could be mistaken, but I feel like he actually like dominated against the Fuchsia gym. I don't know why I feel like that was the case, but I think he did.
It's weird how I don't remember that gym at all. I remember Sabrina's gym because that whole gym's a fucking joke
Yeah, that
in
was
the anime.
yeah, yeah. That was also kind of
He
a nightmare. Like it was
he
kind of like spooky.
he made her laugh. So here's your gym badge.
Yeah, pretty
Um,
much. I guess I won't turn you into a doll and stick you in my little fucking playhouse.
I know
Fucking weird.
Blaine kidnaps him on his Rapidash.
But he does defeat Blaine legitimately, but that was just because Charizard had a bone to pick with Magmar. He wasn't listening to Ash. He was just doing his own thing.
Oh yeah, because they hadn't. Oh yeah, because we have to talk about the fucking Charizard arc because it's so fucking dumb.
Mhm.
Um, the dumbest one though is still Giovanni's gym, where the fucking thing just kind of lands in his hand. He's like, "Cool, got it."
Yeah. Yeah, because Jesse and James were the ones defending the gym actually because I think that when he went to that gym is when like the Mewtwo breakout is supposed to happen because I think it was referenced or like you see like Mewtwo flying off in the distance or something right before he goes to challenge that gym. Um, yeah, actually, because he bumps into Gary right before he's going there, and Gary's like all beat up and like, that place is awful. Um, but yeah, that was a weird thing. Although, like, I'll give him credit with that one because that like in that particular battle, they had some like um crazy thing rigged up where you would feel the pain the Pokemon is going through.
Yeah, that sounds like the Pokemon anime, all right.
Um, it sounds more like the manga.
Yeah,
That's some crazy shit that would happen in the manga. Um, and honestly, like I kind of like that aspect of it. Like I kind of feel Like if that had been a more like if it was like a Bond kind of thing and it wasn't a technology based and it just happened in every battle, I feel like that would have made the show more interesting.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, I guess he's batting like 50. You know, he's batting 500. Is that the phrase? I think he earned about
Yeah,
half of them to some greater or lesser degree.
yeah, they definitely got better with it in the later seasons, but season one's a joke. Like it's kind of
Yeah.
where like
Well,
most of,
oh god.
I was gonna say it's like where most of like the whole like Ash like doesn't deserve anything memes come from.
Hmm. Yeah, it was pretty wild. And yeah, the whole thing with Charmander, because when you first meet Charmander, like that first Charmander episode is probably not the only reason, but it's a big reason why Charmander is my favorite because that was just like the saddest episode.
Yeah,
Um, especially like, well, first of all, I'm gonna talk about how stupid that beginning was because they like literally they walk up to this rock and they're like, "Oh my god, it's some giant Pokemon," and they're literally standing like 4 feet away from this rock, and they can't tell that it's just a Charmander on top of a rock.
yeah,
Like, like you guys gonna tell me your eyes are that bad? It's broad fucking daylight, guys. What the fuck?
yeah, yep,
The shadows
yeah,
aren't that deep, bro.
yeah.
Relax.
It was so sad too. It's just sitting up there, and it just is like dejected.
Yeah, yeah. It was like that whole scene with them like rushing it to the Pokemon Center in the rain, like the flames about to go out. Like that was like one of the few. Like there are a handful of episodes of like that first season that do make me a little emotional, and that's definitely one of them.
Hmm. I will
Um,
say the Charmander arc where like he evolves and he's because Ash has this really weird tendency of just not letting his Pokemon fucking evolve ever.
mhm.
Um, like I'm pretty sure within like the first like 5 seasons, he has like half the starters, but he's only evolved like maybe like two of them. Um,
Yeah, because he didn't evolve. The Charmander is the only one out of the original set that evolved. And if memory serves, he only let Cyndaquil and Chikorita
Chikorita,
evolve once each. Like neither of
and
them got their final forms, if I remember right.
yeah, and Cyndaquil didn't evolve until the fucking Diamond and Pearl era, which was bizarre.
Yeah.
Um,
You sure? I could have sworn he
no,
was a
because it was
Quilava by the end of Johto.
no, it was a Quilla. It literally happened in Diamond and Pearl because Dawn somehow also gets a Cyndaquil, and Ash was like, "Oh, this would
Oh.
be cool for me to bring my Cyndaquil," and then his Cyndaquil evolves during it, and it's like, "Wow, cool, old Pokemon. This will totally get the fans to watch."
Oh, and one of the like most bullshit things ever is like how like Ash, oh, I'll never evolve my Pokemon, pretty much. And then the first fucking time he uses his Krabby, it evolves.
Yeah,
Literally, first battle he's ever used this thing in, and it was like a shrimpy Krabby too, like
yeah,
compared to like Gary's.
and then it just pulls Hyper Beam out of fucking nowhere. It's like, okay, sure.
For real, it's fucking ridiculous.
I think
Like
that's
some
like
of the
I think
shit that they
he.
do in this show.
I swear he uses it like one other time, like 2 seasons later, and then it never gets seen again.
Mhm. Like it's one of those things where like like I know I've mentioned it a bunch of times. I stopped watching by the time like the voice cast changed, like around the time when Diamond and Pearl started.
So like right around Battle Frontier.
Yeah, right
Because
around there
Battlefront
is where I and
that was
even
the
then
first
like
season with the new voices.
yeah, and even then like I stopped watching like diligently after Johto. Like I caught episodes here and there of like Ruby Sapphire and then like a little bit of Battle Frontier, but like I wasn't watching as consistently as I was with the first two regions.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm like really curious to like check out one of the more recent series. Like I forget which one it was. I know uh, one of the Pokemon, one of the more recent ones, was on Jared's list when we did the Anime Fight Club a few years back. I
Yeah,
was thinking
I
about checking that one out. I think was it Journeys? Was that it?
maybe I'd have to re-listen to it because I know there's been because I fell off the series right around Black and White,
Mhm.
um, which is ironic because that's my favorite storyline, like in the series game wise. But going back though, we were talking the Charmander arc,
Right,
and
right.
the Charmander arc is kind of like it was their way of explaining the whole concept of if it's a Pokemon you didn't that you kind of got from somebody else. Once it evolves, it might not listen to you because it's higher level than your respect level, essentially.
Mhm.
And they make a whole big deal about Ash's Charmander evolves into a Charmeleon, and then it's just an asshole for like the next 2 episodes. Um,
You know what? I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think about it in that way because I know like the whole concept of like, oh, if traded Pokemon doesn't listen to you, and though Charmander wasn't technically traded, it was the only one out of those starters that he technically received directly from another trainer.
yeah,
Even though he kind of like chose to turn his back on that trainer and go with Ash, but I guess yeah, I guess that would work in that
that was
respect.
kind of the implication I thought, like at least what it was going for.
But but I don't know, maybe I just didn't register that because it was established that both Bulbasaur and Squirtle were also abandoned by their trainers. But I guess in both of those cases, it had been a bit since then
Well, I think in
of them
that case,
becoming
like
wild Pokemon again.
their trainers were just like long gone by that point.
Yeah, whereas with Charmander, that Charmander had to like directly turn away from his previous trainer to go with Ash. So I
Yeah,
guess in that regard, it would be different. I never really thought about it that way.
hmm. I always
Um,
remember though because he's only a Charmeleon for like 2 episodes.
yeah, like literally, like I think he evolves in the Paris episode,
He
and
does,
then
and
there's
it's
like
mostly out of
one
spite.
episode. Yeah, exactly. And then there's one episode in between, and then the episode after that, I believe, was the one where they were hunting for fossils.
Hmm.
And that was the episode that he evolved into Charizard. It was also the episode where they got the Togepi egg.
Yes, the Togepi egg was a very interesting arc because I love that because Ash finds it, and then they're just like, "Fuck you, it's mine." And Ash is like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, Ash finds it, takes care of it, raises it. It hatches and looks at Misty, and then it's obvious. All of a sudden, it's hers. Like that's so
Yeah,
bullshit.
yeah.
I'd be pissed.
I mean, it was
But
useless anyways, but
I came in clutch when it was necessary. It was the wild card.
yeah.
Um, but I mean, to be fair, the second it became useful, he would have just gotten rid of it anyway. So
I always forget that because it takes a while. Like the Charizard arc to me, I like the concept of it because it's playing into the whole idea that uh traded Pokemon don't always obey. I feel like
mhm.
they stretch that out way too long though.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think part of that is because I don't know if you remember, but later on, like towards the part like point where I think he had most of or all of the Indigo badges, they did like a weird thing where they kind of like turned the time back, and all of a sudden, like we had some episodes where Charmander was still a Charmander.
Yeah, I never understood. I think that was an American thing. Like I think they skipped some episodes and then like replayed them or something.
It's possible because I know there was the episode where where they were on like a mountain or so. They're trying to get over a mountain or something, and Ash got separated from everybody else, and it was just him and his Pokemon, and like they were pretty much gonna freeze to death. And that was another one of the ones that like touched me in like a weird way. Like it was a very touching episode. Um,
Yeah.
and honestly, like the fact that we didn't get a lot of like Charmander, like little Charmander, that kind of bugged me a little bit because I love Charmander. And then like as soon as he becomes a Charmeleon, he's just such an asshole for no reason.
Yeah. Um I always forget too, like in the first movie, he's still like being a fucking disobedient prick. Um,
Yep.
but because of the way the movie is, like it's kind of like overshadowed. So I always forget that occasionally.
Yeah. Well, by the second movie, he's good. So, because it was in the Orange Islands. It took until the Orange Islands for the Charizard to finally like get over that.
Yeah, because it was the episode where he gets frozen solid. Which I'm always like that.
Because that's how that works.
Yeah, I'm like that should have killed him. Like by their
Yeah.
logic, that he should have died.
Yep.
But yeah, then
Well,
he
I
just
think the
finally.
tail was still poking out, but either way, he couldn't breathe.
Yeah,
So
I never understood that logic. But yeah, it was just one of those like weird things. The Orange
mhm.
Islands in themselves is like a weird thing in general.
I kind of like the concept, which actually come to think of it, I feel like maybe the Orange Island inspired what became Alola, like the Alola region, because the whole concept of like trials as opposed to gyms, like the Orange Islands did that forever ago.
I feel like that's just a really big coincidence because I highly doubt Game Freak thought back that far. But that is an interesting parallel.
Because they were both series of islands that they had to travel between. There was multiple like quote unquote trials as opposed to just straight on gym battles. Because I remember like there was like a race that they had to do at one point in the water. Um, one of them was like a not an obstacle course, but it was like a shooting range kind of where they had to go through like this like track and like shoot targets. It was like all sorts of weird stuff like that.
Hmm.
Which I mean, the concept of like it's a fun concept, and of course, that's like the only one he actually wins is the one that's not a real fucking league.
Well, besides the final season with Ash, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, well, if it takes him over 20 years to do it, then it,
Well, no, what do you talk about? It's only been a year.
yeah, that makes sense. The sheer episode count alone disproves that.
And he had
even if
multiple birthdays during the series.
even if each episode is one day, that's still like 3 years.
That's a retcon that they didn't think about, and it's like it just annoys me like to this day because it's like,
Hmm.
how is he still 10? Also, Gary gets older. Like it doesn't make any sense.
I don't know, man.
Ugh.
I know there's all sorts of theories about it. The Ash Coma theory, man. That shit keeps me up at night.
Pokemon theories are insane.
Yeah,
Um,
some of them are fucking wild. And there's like I
or
think there's also a theory that like when he saw Ho-Oh, he like made a wish or something, and like that's why he doesn't age. There's all sorts of crazy theories with that.
um, yeah, Orange Islands is such a weird season though. It's like the one season with Tracy, who didn't last very long at all. Um,
Yeah. I mean
because
he
they
pops up every now and then after that, but yeah, he's not super common.
Yeah, he just lives
Uh,
in Professor Oak's lab at that after that.
Yeah. Well, we saw him in Pokemon Forever a
We
little
did.
bit.
We did. See, I always remember because Rock goes away that season because he's hanging out with Professor Ivy. And then he comes back after that. He refuses to acknowledge anything that happened the previous
Yeah, he's
season.
like super traumatized for some reason.
Yeah, like what happened? Like, we'll never know.
I don't
Um,
know. I'm sure there's plenty of theories about that too.
yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Actually, come to think of it, I think that topic was broached during the Ashcoma theory. It's been a long time since I listened to that. It's like a 20-minute video, just like diving deep into like the whole concept of his psyche.
Mm.
But
Also, the I always remember the Orange Islands too, because that's like the season where he had a Lapras for most of the season, then he just lets it go at the end, and I'm like, cool. He
yeah,
didn't need that.
every time he gets a great fucking Pokemon, he lets it go. He had the same thing in Johto. He had a fucking Larvitar, and I know
Yeah,
like
and let it
the
go.
whole thing. It wasn't technically his Pokemon. He was specifically bringing it somewhere. But there comes a point where it's like, yo, man, we've been traveling together. Like, we got this bond. Like, you should just come with me. Like,
He could have totally had that Haunter too, but no, he had to give it to Sabrina. And I don't think Sabrina ever acknowledges it again after that.
and as soon as the primate starts listening to him, he gives it away.
Yeah. Gives Charizard away
Fucking
to the fucking horde of Charizards. Well,
Pidgeotto finally evolves, sets it free.
Butterfree, let's go.
This is one of the other very emotional episodes.
Yeah, especially because when you think about it, that Butterfree's probably dead now by now.
What do you mean it's only been a year?
That's true. Fuck, I didn't think of that. I fucking hate the Pokemon continuity so much.
See, this is why the manga makes so much more sense.
Yeah,
Even ass pulls and all. Ass pulls and all.
the anime would be so much more interesting with Green in it.
Yeah. Which I'm
Um,
surprised, honestly, that they never threw her in the mix. Just for, even if they called her something different and did a different thing with her, like, they
well,
could have done something.
I think she appears in the background of like one of the movies, kind of like how like a few of the other unnamed, like I think Blandon appears in the background of one of them at one point.
You just call him Blandon.
Yeah, because let's face it, besides Ruby, all other versions of him are boring as fuck.
Fair. I was trying to
Uh,
think, what is the that's not Green that's in the first movie, is it? Who has the Blastoise? I feel like it's a completely different character design.
it's a
It's
completely
been a long
different
time since I
character.
watched it. It's been a while since I watched it. Um, yeah, he gives away all of his best Pokemon. The
He
ones he doesn't
does.
get rid of. He gets rid of all the ones that are evolved or just overpowered.
Well, I used to always
Whatever
laugh
happened to
because
Snorlax? He had a Snorlax, didn't he?
he still does. It just lives at Professor Oak's lab with all his other
Yeah,
abandoned Pokemon.
with his muck and his 18,000 Tauros.
Oh yeah. Speaking of those, we should talk about the band episodes.
I mean, there's like a main, like a few specifically that I can think of.
Well, the
There was the
most famous
Tauros
one,
one.
the Tauros one, is the whole reason the Tauros one got banned is because the storekeeper points a gun at Ash's head.
Well, I think it's the kind of gun that he points at him because looking back, even just the few episodes that I watched today, people were pulling guns on him a lot.
Hmm.
Like, I think it was just because in that particular episode, it was like a German, like World War II pistol
He also had it like
specifically.
right at his head, like up close. It was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, because
Uh,
people have definitely pulled guns on in Ash and in other episodes.
yeah,
So I think it just depends on what kind of gun it was.
yeah.
Um,
The other one, obviously the most famous band episode is the Electric Warrior Porygon episode,
mhm.
which is I always laugh because the one who caused the explosions wasn't even Porygon; it was Pikachu.
Mhm.
Have you ever watched that episode?
Um, I don't think I've ever watched it to completion. I have seen clips of it.
You've seen the scene though with like the
Yeah,
flash that supposedly gave millions of Japanese children seizures.
yeah.
Um, yeah, that's an interesting episode because it actually is the reason why Porygon never appears again, like in the series, because they basically just made it. They went out of their way to like they were like never again.
Even though it wasn't even Porygon that did it.
It was Pikachu of all things.
Figures.
Supposedly, 4Kids dubbed that episode, but it
Hmm,
never. We'll probably never see the light. It'll never see the light of day.
interesting. There
There
was
was
another
also
episode that wasn't like banned overall, but it was not allowed in America for a little while.
the Beach Babe episode.
No, that one they just cut that one scene out, I believe. Because
Yeah, they cut
I
out.
have that on my hard drive, and that one scene when it gets to it just switches to Japanese, and then as soon as the scene's over, it switches back to English.
Yeah, they for those who don't know, there's literally a scene in the episode where they cut to Jesse and James at the beach, and James has giant inflatable boobs, and he's in a bikini, and it's like,
And
what the fuck
he's
is?
making fun of Misty for having small boobs.
Yeah, for kids. Yeah,
Uh,
that whole scene is bizarre.
yeah. The one I was referring to though was the Tentacool and Tentacruel episode because
Oh,
that
because 9/11.
came out literally right after 9/11, and then you got this giant tentacruel knocking down city buildings and whatnot. Like, yeah, it was very poor timing.
Yeah, like there's just like so many bizarrities.
Which is funny too, because I don't even think I was aware of this like until like way later because I had the VHS tape with that episode on it. It was the episode where they were trapped underwater on the SSN, the episode where they all get separated from the Pokemon and we actually know what the fuck the Pokemon are saying for once. And then that Tentacruel episode was the third one. Me and my cousin watched that particular tape of episodes so many times. So obviously those were some of the ones I watched today because those ones are pretty heavily like burned into my memory. Those are always ones I go back to.
I always remember the So me and Alex had a VHS tape similar. It had 3 episodes. It had the fighting Pokemon one, the one where he gives up Primeape.
Mm-hmm.
It had the episode where he gets Muck with all the Grimers and the Magnemites. And then it had the Diglett episode.
Oh, the Diglett episode. That's the one where Ekans and Koffing evolve, isn't it?
It is. Oh, you want to talk about episodes that are fucking tragic? The episode where Jesse and James give up Koffing and Wheezing. Wheezing and Arbok.
I think that was one of the episodes. Like it was like right when Diamond and Pearl started. Because
that was way before.
That
was way before Diamond and Pearl. That was right at the start of the Advanced era.
Are you sure?
Well, because she got the Seviper while she was in Hoenn.
Right. Seviper's a Gen 3 Pokemon. That's right. Oh, yeah, and James got the Cacturn.
Yeah. Among other Pokemon.
Yeah, I think that was one of the episodes that made me kind of like, nah. But at the same time, like, looking back on it now, I feel like that was probably a smart move, because if you're going to have Team Rocket constantly showing up, should probably change out their Pokemon every now and then.
Yeah, that was just such a sad episode. It was like, wow. It's like tragic.
How about the episode where you find out that James is actually a rich kid?
Yeah.
And he's got a Growlithe back home and a fiance and all this crazy shit. He actually left.
What's hilarious is they still remember he's rich, but they always forget about the fiance and the Growlithe.
Yeah. And you know what's really funny too is as I was watching, I noticed in the early episodes, it seems like they're never hurting for food. It's not until James buys the Magikarp, because he used both his and Jesse's salary for that.
The first time.
And that's when they start like eating scraps like out of the trash after that point.
He gets duped by the Magikarp salesman so many times throughout the series.
Yeah, I find that so funny that it's the same dude every time. Like, he always tricks him. He's like, hey, wait, you seem kind of familiar.
I always remember too, because it's right at the end of the SSN episode where like they all escape, and then Jesse and James are like, what do? We don't have any water Pokemon. James is like, wait, I have this one special Pokemon. It's Magikarp. And I'm just like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then it evolves into Gyarados and tries to kill them.
Yeah. It's funny whenever everybody says like, "Oh, James is actually the best trainer about all of them." It's like, yeah, remember that time he kicked his Magikarp and then I tried to kill him? Yeah, what a great trainer. I mean, his relationship with his Growlithe is very sweet, though.
Yeah, too bad they forget about it immediately after that episode.
Should have taken it with him. I mean, also, I love the concept, like the Island of Giant Pokemon episode, where like you actually get to see what all the Pokemon are saying to each other. Mm-hmm. And there's that one part where like Koffing and Ekans are like, what do you mean we're not going to attack them? Like, Pokemon aren't inherently bad, bro. Like, we just have shitty trainers. That's all. Like, we only do that shit because they tell us to.
I always remember that episode.
The implication there being that Meowth is just an enigma because he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I thought that very funny.
Meowth is a weird one. I was like that one time when they're all fighting for Togepi, and Meowth is like, I'm going to use my water attack, and he just throws buckets of water on the fucking field. They're like, you can't throw water on the field, you asshole.
Yeah, God, there's so many episodes. Like, what? I'm trying to think, because I had a few different VHS tapes with different episodes. I know I had the one that I mentioned earlier. I had the trio of episodes where Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle were introduced, And I had another set of 3. I think it was I know it was the bridge episode
Hmm.
where they the biker gangs
Yep.
that like idolize Jesse and James. There was the one with the Ditto chick.
It did it. Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
chick with the Ditto. I forget what the last one was. It might have been the Ghost of Maiden Peak. I'm not 100% sure. That one was a creepy episode.
There was a lot of really weird episodes in the anime.
Yeah. Yeah, Team Rocket broke the fourth wall a lot.
They did. Also, I love like whenever like one of the side characters would catch a Pokemon, it would be like a big deal. Like whenever Brock caught something, it was like, oh my god, he caught a Pokemon,
And there's like, he got gifted a Vulpix. Woo.
and then lost it by the end of the season.
Yep. And then trying to think. I mean, and it was weird too because the first 2 seasons, like Ash gets all 3 starters, and then from Hoenn onward, it's like, okay, I get one, and each of my companions also gets one. It just always perfectly works out that way.
You know what's bizarre? So like, the first 2 seasons he got all three. Then in Hoenn he got just Trico. Then in Sinnoh he gets both a Turtwig and a Chimchar, and he evolves both of them to the third form. It was like the one weird point in his Ash's career where he straight up
Hmm.
evolved his Pokemon. Ironically,
Interesting.
Dawn, who had the Piplup, didn't.
Huh.
Then I believe in the Black and White seasons, he actually has all three of those starters too, and once again doesn't evolve. Well, I think he might evolve his to Pig, maybe. I don't know. I
So
didn't watch
weird.
enough of those, but yeah.
So weird.
Yeah,
Oh
the
man.
Sinnoh's weird though because he does evolve his Turtwig and his Chimchar.
Um, a part of me kind of wants to touch on some of the movies, but I feel like those should be separate episodes.
Probably. I mean, they are pretty iconic. At least the first three.
Yeah. I mean, I personally have a lot of nostalgia for the fourth movie as well, but
I mean, I watched them all up until the first Diamond and Pearl movie, so I have good memories with them. I mean, the first Hoenn movie, Jirachi Wishmaker, that movie's fucking nightmare fuel. Like I still say it to this day.
and I remember specifically I got that movie on DVD because I loved Groudon. And I saw like Groudon on the cover, and then when
Oh,
that actually
there,
happened, I was like, "Oh, this is not what I thought this was going to be."
there's there's a Groudon in the film, kind of. um,
Yeah,
it's
in the
something.
same in the same way, there's a Kyogre in the Emerald arc of the manga,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Uh,
Um, and in the future, I do want to cover the Pokemon I Choose You. That movie is phenomenal, very good movie. It does like a fun thing where it kind of like reboots the story, where it kind of starts Ash on his journey again, but with the context of all these other regions already exist. And he's not traveling with Brock and Misty; they're two completely different characters.
yeah. That's so weird.
And there's like one small Jesse and James cameo, but they're like not in the movie otherwise. Like it's a really interesting like take on it. And I kind of wish that they had spun off its own anime with that because that would have been really cool.
It's-
Kind of like a branch off of what I was saying earlier about like if they were to do the first season now, like
yeah.
like what it would be like. And that's kind of like I feel like that movie kind of encapsulates that.
It's kind of like how I wish like Pokemon Origin was like a full-on series and not no VA.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's kind of just a branch off of us wanting the manga to be adapted. I know it's not the same story, but they're both kind of based off of the game, so they're related in a way that the Ash anime isn't.
Yeah. Like if I always say like if the manga was truly adapted, that would be such a dark anime.
It'd be so good though.
It would.
Like
Although
that'd be
what
in like probably one of my top animes if they did that.
I don't know if they do it justice though.
It depends on who did it. I mean, obviously the Pokemon Company would have their hands in it in some degree, but um, I'm sure they can make something work. I mean, this is also the same company that had all those weird
Yeah,
background lore that was recently released or leaked or whatever the fuck you want to say.
they sure did.
Which is funny too, because I could have sworn that the whole like sexual relations with Pokemon thing was already a thing in the lore. I just feel like it was kind of buried underneath.
It wasn't a
Really,
very apparent
like
thing.
you could find it if you just happen to look in the right place, but it wasn't like in the public knowledge like it is now.
I just want to know who thought that was a good idea.
Because if memory serves, there was like I think it was like a Did You Know Gaming or something like that that I watched. I don't know if it was that one in particular, but it was some video I saw where like there's a translation, like it was like a localization change that they made in the Diamond and Pearl games. It's when you go to the library and like you're reading all like the history books and stuff. And I think they changed it in the American version, but apparently in the Japanese it mentions that people in Pokemon were kind of like both evolved from the same beginning point and did used to like intermarry and stuff.
Hmm.
So I mean the concept of that was already existed. It just not in the level of detail that we've been made aware of now.
Yeah. Uh, this the worst part is this just fuels the fandom, and like this is like what they
Yeah.
want. Uh,
Yeah, well, keep your safe search on when you look up Pokemon. That's all I'm saying.
yeah, well, I mean, you go on fanfiction.net, and the number one category in under video games is Pokemon.
Yeah.
Let that sink in for a minute.
Let's move on from that.
Yeah.
um, so did you ever like? I only remember catching a couple of them here and there, but do you remember Pokemon Chronicles? It was like a
Were
little
those the
side.
were those the ones that followed like the character that's supposed to be gold, but his name's Jimmy or whatever?
One of them was because I believe each of them was like a separate story revolving around different characters. One of them was quote unquote Jimmy, but it was Gold. Played by Sean Schemmel actually.
Yeah, that was always so weird to me. Like I was like, I'm like, ugh. It just
Yeah.
like brain does not compute.
And he had a Typhlosion, and the special revolved around Raikou, which I really liked that because that was the only one of the dogs that didn't get its own movie.
Yeah, Raikou kind of got fucked over because Entei was in the third movie, and then Suicune was in the fourth movie.
Yeah, and they both were like very big aspects of those movies, and then Raikou just kind of got the shaft.
Yeah.
So I like that he kind of got his own thing, and we got a little bit of Gold in some degree, even though it's not the Gold I like the most.
You know what's funny though? A different gold appears in the background of like one of the movies, which is even more bizarre.
Which one was it?
I forget. I'd have to look it up, but like, because you know how they always do those like pre-segments before we get to Ash, where they're just talking about the world of Pokemon.
Yeah.
And they show like battles going on. I know in one of the movies, I think it's probably one of either the Diamond and Pearl movies because that was around the time Heart Gold Soul Silver was out.
That would make sense.
There is a scene in the background where I think you see like it's supposed to be like Ethan fighting back there because it's his diamond, it's his Heart Gold Soul Silver design. And I was like, and you look at the character, it's very clearly not the same character as Jimmy was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Jimmy had like the weird like you know how like Gold has like the little bit of hair that comes out of his hat.
Yeah, Jimmy's was like
for some reason
like,
Jimmy's was like it was like Jesse's hair but turned around.
It defied gravity. It was very exaggerated.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everything's pretty exaggerated in Pokemon. Everybody survives things they have no business surviving.
Yeah. Pokemon Chronicles was a weird thing though, like because those were pretty much all standalone episodes.
Yeah, and they were like they're just like little like 45-minute to an hour long specials, and like it was cool having like those kind of little like side stories like that don't revolve around the characters that we've been following for decades. Which I suppose isn't really much of an issue anymore now that we've Now that it's going to be following other characters, but
I remember there was one that revolved around like Ash's friend that had like the other Pikachu, the one with like the spiky hair for some reason.
I loved that guy. Like those old episodes when like they first, I forget his name. So I know he had like fun nicknames for his Pokemon. Like he had a Charmander named Zippo.
Yeah.
I think his Pikachu was like Sparky or something. I can't
Yeah, that
what the hell was his name? Was it Todd?
I don't think it was Todd. I always
Or was it a
remember
different
though
character?
when I think of like the nicknames, I always remember the scene in the first movie where like the three people they need like three of the starters to show up in their
Hmm.
final forms. And I remember like these two like random Pokemon, random trainers are like, "Here's my Blastoise and Venusaur," and they have like weird names. And Ash is like, "Mine doesn't have a name, but here's Charizard," and it's
He
like,
also doesn't listen to me because he hates my guts.
yeah, he's an asshole, but here he is.
Yep. Um. So yeah, those Pokemon Chronicles thing, I'd love to find those and watch those now,
Mm.
just to see how they hold up. There was also a pilot episode made for a Mystery Dungeon anime, and I'm like really upset that that didn't take off.
Yeah, I think it was just too obscure for like. The problem is with
But
the Pokemon.
especially with like how much everybody loved the episode where like you get the subtitles and you actually know what the Pokemon are saying to each other. You'd think a series completely based around like Pokemon that like fully have their own communities and can talk to each other, and you'd think that would have done well,
Hmm.
but for some reason it didn't.
Yeah, you know what I think it is too, because I swear to God, like Four Kids did not do a great job promoting that. Like, and I think it kind of went under the radar.
Because I just happened to catch it on TV, and I remember like they played it for like a month or something like that, and then just nothing ever again ever happened, and it
I
was
just
very
don't think
upsetting.
it. I don't think it made the ratings. I think that was the problem. Like, it just kind of was a kind of a flop.
You know what it is? It played it in the summer. Everyone's
Probably.
outside
Yeah.
or playing
Back,
video games.
back when kids went outside. What a novel time.
Yeah, that's what it was. I remember specific because this was during the time when they were like throwing a bunch of random shit against the wall to see what would stick. I think it was the same time that Andre 3000 cartoon came out.
Yeah.
If anybody remembers that, when Andre 3000 had a music school.
Yeah. Oh, so I've been thinking of random episodes. I remembered one of the ones with Ash as a friend with Sparky. I can't remember his name, but I remember the Pikachu. I always remember this episode because it was the one where there was like Team Rocket was doing one of their schemes and they had like all of these trainers. They're like, all right, dump your Pokemon into this bag. We got to check them before the gym battle. And everyone just immediately goes, oh yeah, that makes sense. Just dumps their Pokemon in. And
Yeah.
then it's like, surprise, Team Rocket stole your shit. Um, and then I remember because like Ash, like they steal back the Pokemon, but they can't find, but because they're all the same Pokeballs, they can't figure out who's a who's. And his friend's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I put stickers on my Pokeball, so of course I can find mine." And it's like what
Yeah.
an ass. I always remember that scene. I was like, "What an asshole."
Yeah, that was really funny. And I feel like that kind of like opened up the idea for the capsules or whatever in the fourth game in Diamond and Pearl, where you could kind of like make the little like designs pop whenever you throw the Pokeball out.
Mm.
Sorry, I'm trying to
Oh
figure
yeah.
out what the hell that kid's name is because it's driving me nuts now.
You know what's funny too? Like I always remember, like in the Johto season, they introduced like the idea of like different Pokeballs, and because they brought up the whole like customized ones made out of the apricorns. And I always remember
Mhm.
because they only end up making like three of them. They get a couple quick fastballs, and then they get the lure balls. And like, there's like this very brief like, I think it's because it's like literally only Totodile and whatever Pokemon Misty used to catch it with
Yeah,
the lure ball, and it would just always be that weird blue and red ball that Ash would throw.
yeah, and I think Brock used like a heavy ball to catch a Pineco or something.
It was either that or the fastball or whatever it was.
I
The
don't
one
remember.
with like
It was
light
his name is Richie, by the way.
Richie. Yeah. Yeah, he disappeared after the Jodos era.
I think he popped up every now and then, but like it was very infrequent.
I still think the funniest thing though is this is just like referencing the end of the series when Ash is fighting his big championship battle. Literally, the only person who shows up is Dawn. Like, what the hell?
I find that really funny.
It's like out of all characters, it's Dawn.
All the friends he made along the way, all those episode of the week friends that he made along the way. The only one,
not even
showed up.
Misty or not even Misty or Brock. Oh, Dawn.
Yeah, Brock, who was with him pretty much the entire time,
From the beginning
even when they
till
were,
the end of Sinnoh, aside from Orange Island.
even when they weren't planning on traveling together, they would just bump into each other randomly and say, "Well, I guess we're companions again."
Yeah. I still think Sinnoh's the funniest one, where like he's like in a truck with some lady, and like he pops out because he sees Ash. He's like, "Yo, I'm just traveling across the country with this bitch," and then like as he's talking, she just drives off, and it's like, oh,
It's like, yeah, that tracks. That tracks. um. So, are there any particular episodes that stand out to you, like some of your favorites growing up?
I mean, I love the first appearance of Muck because I always found that episode super crazy, especially the ending where like Professor Oak gets the Muck. He's like, "Why'd you send me a Muck?"
Why does it stink through the Pokeball?
Yeah, and then it just like it just harasses him forever after that.
Yep.
That episode always stuck with me. I'll always remember the episode where Krabby evolves into Kingler is pretty iconic, just because it's so what the hell. Then the fucking Kingler, the sound it makes is it's like kooky, and it's like what the fuck is that?
Oh, one of my favorites is the episode where you see an Electabuzz for the first time.
Electabuzz is legendary.
That is my favorite like Pokemon sound ever in all of the show. It's fucking great.
For anyone wondering, just look up Electabuzz cry Pokemon anime. It is something else.
I always laugh. I can't help it. Like the first.
I just want to know what the direction was, because for the most part, all of them say their names, and then it's like you get to that, and it's like, what the fuck? Like, okay, sure.
It's like I feel like they were trying to make it sound like he's like being electrocuted or something, but it just comes off silly as fuck.
Yeah, I always remember that.
One episode I always remember is from like towards the end of that first season was the surfing episode, the surfing Pikachu.
Yeah, because they had to reference that.
Yeah. With the one like random Pikachu that can sense the waves. Do you remember what the wave was called? The big wave?
No, I don't remember. It
was called Humunga Dunga.
Humunga Dunga.
Oh god.
That's just gotta be it. That should be a channel name in the Superpod network.
Shit, we should have named our podcast that. That'd have been great.
Humunga Dunga.
Humunga Dunga, the Humunga Dunga podcast.
I'm not going to remember that in the morning, but we should bring that up more.
Well, whenever Jared inevitably spins off a specifically Pokemon themed podcast, we'll toss him that one as a freebie.
Humunga Dunga.
And he lives in California too, so that works.
Yeah. I always loved the whole running gag too of anytime Ash runs into a female, their bike gets fucking obliterated for no reason.
Yeah. And just bikes have bad luck around him for whatever reason.
It happened to Misty, it happened to May, it happens to Dawn, although Ash isn't involved when it happens to Dawn. I think even the girl from Black and White, her bike gets destroyed somehow.
Is the girl from Black and White, is that the chick with the dragons?
It's supposed to be Iris from who's the gym leader.
Okay.
Because we couldn't have Hilda.
Because I didn't watch any of those. I watched one movie. For some reason, I watched it like 3 or 4 times, just on completely separate occasions for different reasons. I don't know why it kept coming up, but it did. But I remember she was there, and she just like pulls out all these like pseudo legendary dragons. I'm like, where the fuck has this bitch been? I think Ash needs to take a page out of her book. Like, goddamn.
Well, no, He's got to throw away all his Pokemon after every new region. He's got a Charizard, he's got a Sceptile, he's got a Torterra, he's got a Infernape. He's got a lot of fucking really powerful Pokemon, but he's like, nah, gonna start fresh with my Pikachu. I refuse to evolve.
He's got a Snorlax. He's got a fucking horde of Tauros.
Yeah, Horde got a Muck. A lot of other Pokemon.
Trying to think. Oh, Heracross.
Heracross.
One of my favorites.
He's got a shiny Noctowl.
Yeah, right. That was a weird one. Come out of
He
nowhere.
brought that back during the Sinnoh championship battles. And he like, I remember he brings it out for a one fight, and like one of the people in the crowd's like, that Noctowl is a different color, and it's like, okay, it sure is.
Yeah.
What other weird
I
Pokemon?
think.
Oh, he had an Apom for like half a season, and then gave it to Dawn, and then it ditched Dawn.
That's so funny.
And
especially since that was Diamond and Pearl, so Apom could have evolved, but of course
it does evolve. Dawn evolves it, and then it ditches her to be a ping pong champion.
Wow. Okay. God, the Pokemon anime is so fucking weird.
You know what's hilarious though? Like I love when like, because like May comes back during Diamond and Pearl, and during Hoenn, May had got her hands on a Squirtle and a Bulbasaur somehow. And when she comes back, her Bulbasaur is a Venusaur, and I think her Squirtle is a War Turtle. And it's like, wow, even May's better at this than Ash is, and May's only a contest coordinator.
Yeah, I was gonna say May's not even a trainer; she's just contests.
Yeah, May had a full on Blaziken, like, and everything.
It's so funny, ridiculous. Oh yeah, and yeah, Brock got the Swampert, didn't he?
He did. I don't think it ever got to Swampert though. I think it only got to Marshtomp.
Which is weird because I know it's not technically a rock type, but I mean ground is pretty close. His Onix is technically part ground type, so.
His Onix evolved into a Steelix off screen. I always remember that because he leaves his Onix with his little brother who's running the gym.
Really? Because when he leaves originally, his dad takes over the gym leader mantle for him.
So in the later seasons, because I think it happened actually during Battle Frontier, they go back to Pewter, and his mom had come back and taken over and made it like another water gym, and everyone was like, there's already one right next door.
His mom's alive?
Yeah, they retcon that later on.
What?
Yeah.
The whole thing was that his dad was a deadbeat and he had to take care of all of his siblings.
Yeah, Battle Frontier had a lot of interesting moments.
Jesus Christ. Everyone's parents are deadbeat.
Yeah, his mom comes back.
Off banging off Professor Oak and fucking... Who even knows what the hell happened to Missy's parents?
Yes. They got eaten by the what's the Pokemon that traumatized her? Oh, Gyarados. Yeah, they got eaten by the Gyarados. That's my theory.
Yeah. At least we know where fucking May's dad is. Shit.
Oh yeah, because in this anime they use the logic that her dad is Norm.
Oh really?
Yeah,
I don't know why I assumed that it was Birch.
No, because Blandon doesn't exist in this universe. At least not a main character.
It's so weird.
She had a little brother too who was annoying as fuck.
Yeah, he's the kid who stops you from going into the grass in the Ruby and Sapphire games.
Yeah,
in the very beginning.
Max.
So weird. That's why I want to check out some of the more recent ones because like all the stuff that we remember from our childhood, like it's just so fucking bizarre and weird. Like I want to see like how the anime has evolved over time.
Well, I still say like Diamond and Pearl to me like had like the final championship fights. It has one of the biggest like middle fingers to Ash ever, where he gets through this really awesome fight with his quote unquote rival for that season. And then he gets to his next battle, and it's against this guy who's like hyped up as like this like extremely powerful trainer, and he's got a fucking Darkrai, and it's like okay. And the Darkrai basically takes out half of Ash's team. His Sceptile, because Ash actually uses his old Pokemon during this fight, like he brings back his Sceptile, and it actually beats the Darkrai. And then of course his next Pokemon is a fucking Latios. It's like what the? It's like what the fuck? It's like really?
That's about right.
It's like we know who won that fucking championship.
Like there's a part of me that kind of wishes that like by the end of Ash's run, like the last fight that he had in the championship was just fucking red out of nowhere and just absolutely
Yeah.
destroys him. And then
It's
Ash
red.
just gives up being a trainer.
I'd say it's Red from Pokemon Origin. But we know for a fact that's a different universe because Brock is actually a normal character in that universe.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, Pokemon's weird. I definitely I would
I think we should end it off by talking about the theme songs, like the opening themes, because holy shit.
yeah, I only really know like the first like 5 or maybe 6 of them.
I always remember I mean, obviously the original Pokemon theme is iconic. The famous "I want to be the very best."
Yeah. Which
Especially because there's a version of that on YouTube now by a YouTube musician called Jonathan Young.
mm,
He did a like heavy metal version of that song, but he actually got Jason Page to come back and do guest vocals on it.
it's pretty cool.
That one's fun. I always had a soft spot for Pokemon World, the theme song to the Orange Islands.
Which is funny because that was just a reused song from Pikachu's Jukebox in the first season. Because
Yeah,
once they decided the Poke Rap was getting old, they started doing a thing called Pikachu's Jukebox, where they would just play different Pokemon themed songs at the end of every episode. Like there was the Pokemon World, there was like the Team Rocket one, there was
Double Trouble.
Double Trouble. There was We're on the Road to Viridian City.
To be a master. I love To Be a Master.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a bunch of those. And
What's
some of
funny
them
is
were pretty catchy.
Pokemon World has like two versions. There's like the one that they use for the opening, and then there's like this one that's like a lot like more expanded upon.
Hmm.
Then there's Pokemon Johto. Everyone remembers Pokemon Johto.
Yeah, yeah, that was very catchy.
I always remember that
You know,
because like
I was just thinking about it. I was watching the old episodes on Netflix. I don't think they had the "Who's that Pokemon" bit in the middle at
they
any
probably
point.
cut him out. They probably cut him out just for time.
Why would they do that?
Because there's no
That's so
commercials.
iconic.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. They still did it in the VHS tapes and shit.
Who's that Pokemon? It's Padme. No. I love that meme.
um, but yeah,
You know what I loved about the
there's a
themes, the opening themes?
what?
The ones in the 90s were super 80s. The ones in the 2000s were super 90s, and then the ones after that were like super 2000s. Like they were behind a generation.
I feel like that was just kind of a thing with anime in general, though.
That's the thing with anime. Also, just Japan is just behind culturally like a couple of years.
Yeah, and I don't know. There's always some sort of like I know this is like a thing that people have talked about, but like when it comes to like a decade, like the first couple of years of a new decade is like kind of grouped in with the previous decade. Like the first couple of years of the 2000s is still kind of 90s, and like the first couple of years of like the 2010s was still kind of 2000s. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like especially when it comes to like when you think of like fashion trends and stuff like that going from like the 80s and 90s, like there was that like weird in between where in the early 90s it was still pretty 80s, but it was starting to move into the 90s style. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I feel like that's just a thing with most cultural aspects of each decade.
Yeah.
Be it like, you know, like fashion styles, music, styles of television, so on and so forth.
Um, yeah, I think we got about an hour and a half. I feel like that's a good sample size for the Pokemon anime.
Yeah, I'm honestly I wasn't expecting to go as long as we did on it.
Yeah,
And if we
yeah,
really wanted to, we could probably go even longer. But
probably. Um, yeah, but I figure that's a pretty good time to cut things off here. Um, Once again, though, guys, thank you for joining us on Geek Addicts. You can find Geek Addicts on all the major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify. You can also find us over on the Superpod Network. That's superpodnetwork.com. It's an awesome site where you can find all sorts of video game podcasts, some videos, and some blogs. And you can also check out all the cool shows there like Superpod Saga, Super Ghost Radio, Retro Rehab, Tommy's Video Game Ride Along, A Novel Console, Bar Silence, Find Time, the Elder Trolls Gaming Podcast, Remember 64, Gaming Together, Friday Night Gamecast, and of course, our three shows Gaming and Collecting, 3DO Experience, Geek Addicts, and of course, the Retro Wildlands, and Press B to cancel. And with that, everybody, we will see you all later.
have a good one.